All right. What I wanted to talk about on here today was a hot topic in literally all of the world, which is COVID-19. So, for the data that we're going to be talking about today, everything is coming from Johns Hopkins University, but also from the CDC and other World Health resources. So, this data is not going to be perfectly accurate. Some nations and Johns Hopkins, the CDC, says that this is honestly a best guess based on the information that they have, but it's known to be fairly accurate. And so what we did is I grabbed this resource and I cleaned it using R, using Tidyverse, and then now we're going to take a look at some of these graphics because I believe people got to understand more about what's really going on with COVID-19. So sadly, the news has about a 5-second attention span. So we're moving on from COVID-19 like it is over, but COVID-19 is not moving on from us. This is a graph with literally the latest data. The world's now over 9 million cases of COVID-19. And as you can see, there is no flattening of this curve in terms of overall cases. Our growth rate has been contained a bit in some countries, but we're still growing. I don't know why we're talking about a second wave because the first one never ended. I mean, and if you want to take a little US, that's even more clear. We are starting to see the curve flattening. We have been, but as we're reopening, we're starting to see this curve start picking back up again. So who's to really know? Some people believe that we opened up a little bit too early. I'm not here to really state clearly what I believe on that, but it'll be interesting to see what really does end up happening with the cases here. So that right there was total cases. We are starting to see a little bit of a softening of the curve there, but not as much as we would like to see. And I'll show you later on what other nations who are the gold standard for this. Now this is mortality rate. Now this is the explanation of why COVID-19 was so scary in March. So you can see when we did not have a lot of cases reported, it seemed like the mortality rate was like unreal. Like you can see for this that I'm looking at per 100,000 cases. In March, we were thinking that 9,000 to 9,500 were going to die from 100,000 cases. That would be a 9.5% mortality rate. We're finding out that it's actually much lower than that, but it is still higher than the common flu, which is another thing that crazy people say is that it's not as deadly as the flu, which is not true. It is more deadly than the flu by a factor of several times. And so you can see that things started calming down as we got more testing. We started dropping down here. I imagine we start picking back up as we are seeing more cases. We're seeing some places like New York where they're running lower on ventilators and they're running lower on the ability to treat everyone to the best of what a hospital can normally do given lower or giving like less demand for ventilators and support staff. You can see we're starting to trend down here, which is again a good thing. Hopefully that's because more testing is being done and less people are dying as we're flattening the curve. Hospitals are more able to manage the capacity they're seeing. Now this is the most interesting thing. This right here is really, if you get one thing from what I'm sharing, I want it to be this graphic. So this graphic, as soon as it loads, is going to show, here we are, it's going to show total confirmed cases in a little basket of countries that I picked. So now I decided to let the scales on the side be individual to each graphic because obviously the population of New Zealand or the United Kingdom is not, and Sweden is not the same as the US. But you can see the general trend within each country. So New Zealand's the gold standard. Like you can discredit them by calling them an island or a smaller country. You could do whatever you want. But New Zealand took COVID seriously. And they really helped dole this curve here. And you can see, and just recently, shout out to any New Zealanders because they just cleared their last case of COVID. They're COVID free in the country of New Zealand. And that's because they went out of their way to flatten the curve. They followed the regulations put into place, and now they're able to enjoy being back to normal, which is I'm happy for New Zealand. You see Germany's done a pretty good job of flattening the curve as well, and the United Kingdom is starting to get there. Sweden initially didn't really want to do anything. They didn't want to shut down as a country. They just issued general guidelines. And you can see that their growth curve has not been flattened. They're continuing to see their cases increase at a kind of continuous rate. And you can see Brazil is really just starting to get to the fastest amount of cases declared there. And the U.S. has just been pretty steady. So that's the worry for me. And this is really the question I want to get at is, are we at a point as a country in the United States where we should be releasing these regulations for COVID-19? Should people feel comfortable? Why aren't we talking about COVID anymore? Because we are not where New Zealand was, and we're not even where Germany is. And we're going to continue seeing this growth, and if we're reopening, acting like all is well, going back to normal, then I'm afraid that a lot of people might lose their lives. And so that's the question I want to leave you with is, should we be going back to normal? Should you be no longer doing the things you were to prevent yourself from getting COVID or from spreading it? So that's what I want to leave with you.